actually never told her this. I used to steal her books and I would read them in her room whenever she wasn't home because they were like in her room. I know. Sorry, Madison.
Welcome to the Book Angle, where we talk about books from different angles and sometimes go in circles. I'm Anna, and this is Sabrina. And today, we're going to be talking about some of our childhood favorite reads.
This was really funny. Anna was like, what are your childhood favorites? And I was like, and I completely froze. I could not think of anything. And I had to go back deep into the memory vault. Mm-hmm. Be like, what were those books that got me excited to read? It took some time, but I feel better about my answers. Okay. You were really sad for me.
Yeah, I was. I grew up reading a lot.
I read a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't remember it.
I think there's quite a few books that I have vague memory of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, oh, there was a girl and she had this going on. Yeah. Like, you know, but I grew up riding my bike to the library every Saturday, mm-hmm. and I would fill my little backpack up with books. Yeah. So that's what I did for fun.
I mean, I read a lot too. I was a kid. I don't think I was a careful reader mm-hmm. for a long time. So I would fly through something and be able to be like, this one thing happened. That is all. Yeah. So I don't think I became a careful reader until high school, because that was when I feel like I was taught how to read for fun and read to, I don't know, have like a deeper meaning of
critical
things.
Thinking.
Yeah, I was given. It took a long time to get those critical thinking skills, but you know, high school was my time. But I think that's kind of why I froze. But I'm ready now.
Okay.
I'm ready. Do you want to talk about your first book?
Yeah, so my first book, and probably the book that I have read the most, mm-hmm. From my childhood at least, was Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. I still don't know if it's Levine or Levine. You
do this every time you talk about this book, too.
I know, because
Sorry.
It's ingrained in me from like 11 years old. I don't know her name. So I was introduced to the story through the movie, Anne Hathaway's Ella Enchanted, which nothing like the book whatsoever. Like, it's like they had the same character names. That's about it. Still love the movie though, because
same. I actually have not read the book, but my sister texted me after our last video and she said, "There's a book." I said, "I know. We gotta read it." Because we grew up watching that movie.
Right.
Sorry, continue.
So one of the reasons that I have so loved this book, and I mean, quite literally my copy is falling apart. Mm-hmm. I read it on average probably once every 2 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the reason I love this is because it's a believable story. And I don't... Let me backtrack a little bit. So it's a Cinderella retelling, mm-hmm. and it takes this aspect of what if Cinderella was cursed and was, as a baby, her fairy godmother gave her the blessing of being obedient. And if you watch the movie... Yeah, that is true. Yeah. It's like the movie where if someone says, "Ella, do this," she has to do it regardless mm-hmm. of what that action is. Her body will force her to do it. And in the book, she has a little bit more leniency with how long she can wait to do said action. In the movie, it's like her body jerks forward, and it's instant that she has to do it, and her body's like moving without her controlling it. Yeah. In the book, she starts to feel a little bit nauseous, she gets queasy, she gets dizzy. The longer she resists.
Does she build up like a resistancy where she can wait longer before doing things?
Not really. She doesn't really build up a resistance to it, but she builds up a way to like be obstinate and work around it. Where you ask me to do the dishes and I might put them in the sink, but I didn't actually wash them. Kind
Okay.
of like,
Yeah.
like figuring out ways to get around
Yeah.
the specifics of the request. And so she addresses that her, the housemaid, basically figures this out they figure out she's cursed.
Yeah.
And will specifically word her request or her task as request and not demands. So she has, I'm not going to go into all of the story. That is the setup, is that she has to be obedient. And of course there's a Prince Charming, or Prince Char.
Every good book has a Prince Char.
In the movie, they meet and become friends very, 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 very quickly. In the book, they are friends for years. So, yeah, not true.
That's very different. They meet and they make eyes almost right away.
So they actually meet at her mother's funeral in the book. Yeah, because he was friends with her mother and knew her mother, and then was like drawn to her because she reminded him of her mother's humor, which was very quirky and kind of sarcastic. And so you understand why these two characters are drawn to each other. And yes, it's Cinderella and Prince Charming, but you understand why they like each other. And you see their relationship grow from friends to something more than friends in a very believable way, where it's over a year, 2 or 3 years, I think, that they're friends, before it becomes anything romantic. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can buy that they would...
How old were you when you read this for the first time?
I think I was probably 11 or 12.
I can imagine... Well, that is middle school, but I can imagine 6th grade Anna being like, this is a great romance. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you would be. Whereas I feel like if you were to read something else, you'd be like, I don't believe this. But like 6th grade vibes.
Well, I think that's why it stuck with me. Yeah. Was because I liked both of them as characters, and then I liked them together, and then there is no evil, I want to slay the prince, you have to kill the prince, like there is in the movie. That doesn't happen at all, and it gives her a lot more agency over herself in the story. Yeah. And she has a lot more control over her fate. And it was just so well done. It's so well done.
You also reread it recently.
I reread it and gave it 5 stars as a 28-year-old adult. So... it's still well done.
Yeah. You rereading it made me really excited for you, because I was like, what if she hates it?
No, I loved it. So that's my number 1, I think, from childhood.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. From the vault. I actually do remember this. So I was a military brat and my parents were divorced. So I moved around a lot. So I didn't always have like deep connections at school. But I do remember being in, I believe I was in 3rd grade, maybe 4th grade, and that's when teachers were really fun and they would read books aloud to you, you know, and we were reading early reader books. And this book was There's a Boy in the Girls' Bathroom by Louis Sachar. I had to look it up. Not Sachar. He corrects us. This is the same person who wrote Holes. And it's about a boy named Bradley Chalkers, and Bradley Chalkers, he is a bad bully. He is not the best kid in the world. And I've actually used this book as passages for teaching characterizations for students. But the first line is like, Bradley Chalker sat in the last seat, last row in his classroom, and everyone avoids him. You can't sit in front of Bradley. You can't sit beside Bradley. There's just reasons why. He'll throw spitballs at you. He might pass gas at you. He might do just everything gross and bad. And so his teachers end up sending him to the new guidance counselor, whose name is Carla. And she is able to develop like a really strong, solid, just like relationship with him. Right. Not, you know, just, hey Bradley, why are you like this? Like, what's going on here? And I just remember thinking, and this is why I think it like came from the vault, because I have used this again for teaching short passages, that this is not the book was amazing, but I wanted to be a person who was able to talk to children like little humans. I wanted to treat them like they were little adults and not talk down to them. And Carla definitely does this, and I think this is the first time Bradley really feels seen by someone. Right. So I haven't read the whole book recently, but I had read those big moments where I'm like, okay, guys, this is Bradley. What are some indirect and direct characterizations? This is Carla. They're really different. Let's talk about it. Yeah. And so I think more so for the vibes, it was a great book to read in school. It does have a good message. I don't know if it would live up to the hype to the day, but I could say that's probably a book that made me want to be a teacher one day. She was a guidance counselor, but I like English. I didn't want to be a guidance counselor. So that was my book.
Okay, so my second book is really, I want to highlight this series because I actually like the second book the best, but all three were really great. So the first book is The Goose Girl, In a Burning, and then River Secrets by Shannon Hale. I actually have she wrote Princess Academy, which was the first book that I read by her.
Oh, I've read Princess Academy.
It is a little bit more early reader. It is, I guess it's considered middle grades. Goose Girl's a little bit more of darker themes. And when I say darker themes, I mean darker themes for middle grades. So there's a spectrum here. But I actually have a signed copy because when I was in college, and I could not get home, but when I was in college, she went to one of our local bookstores for a book tour, and my mom took my copy and got it signed for me. So she's also...
Mom!
I have
Miss Christy
since learned that Shannon Hale is very good friends and is in a writing group with Brandon Sanderson. So I was like, this makes sense. I started out with her, and now I moved into adult fantasy with him. It totally makes sense.
That's so cute. We love Brandy Sandy.
So, The Goose Girl is obviously a retelling of The Goose Girl, which is I'm not going to say which region of the world it's from, because I'm not officially remembering. But it is a retelling of that fairy tale. And that fairy tale, like many, is fairly dark. And this does not stray too far from some of those darker themes. The difference here is that it introduces elemental magic. So this was my first introduction to elemental magic, like Avatar type things. So our Goose Girl can hear the wind. And in a burning, Inna can control fire, and then we get to River Secrets, and there's a character who can control water. So it's very much like Avatar: The Last Airbender, but there's no airbenders.
It's very much like this, but not this.
But it's like they have the same type of magic, and they're they're older. Anyway, I was trying to make a correlation, but I didn't watch Avatar until I was an adult. So this was my version of Avatar when I was a child. So The Goose Girl is a story of found family, and there is a romance, but the found family aspect of it is a little bit stronger in my opinion. And In a Burning was the first time that I was a child was introduced to a toxic relationship or toxic romantic relationship and saw the consequences of that and what it could actually look like, and a girl who noticed it was toxic and left. And I will always respect it for that, because she is basically gaslit and emotionally abused and does not believe that she is gaslit and emotionally abused until we get to a certain point in the story. And what am I trying to say? She was a strong, independent woman
who didn't need no man.
And there are consequences, emotional consequences for her being in that relationship. Like, she doesn't immediately get over the fact of the things that he did to her, right? But I just really appreciated that. And then River Secrets is just a fun book. Now, I also want to point out that I love The Goose Girl. I also love Little Thieves, which is a very, very, very different retelling of the Goose Girl story. Yeah. So I feel like that's a transition from what I liked as a child to what I like as an adult. Not that much different.
So we have Yeah, we're doing great so far. Because you still love Ella Enchanted, so that's like, you're doing great. And then Brandy Sandy was with Sharon Hale or Shannon Hale? Shannon Hale. Yeah. And you read both of those, and we love Margaret Owen.
She also has a graphic novel series that is a Rapunzel retelling that Tangled was loosely based off of, where Rapunzel it's like a Western. Rapunzel is like a gunslinger kind of character.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's very fun.
So, my next book has the same vibe to the first book. So basically, I read to be not transported in different worlds, I guess to be inspired about how it's going to change my world. Yeah. Because my second book was Matilda by Roald Dahl, which I still love him. I teach a lot of his short stories, which are very dark. My favorite one was The Landlady. If any of my former students watch this, they know that I love that short story. Anyway, the reason why, if you haven't seen Matilda the movie, or if you haven't read Matilda, it's about a girl who is like us. She loved to go to the library. She's a big reader. You know, she's like 5 and reading, what was it? It was like Pride and Prejudice or something. And she has magical abilities, and she has this she goes to school, or her parents are terrible because, of course, magical, smart youth. Parents have to suck. And she goes off to school. There's the mean director of the school, the principal, Miss Trunchbull, who's abusive and like picks people up by pigtails and throws them. All this other stuff. But we don't care about her because we want us to be inspired. So we had Miss Honey. Yeah. Who is sweet as honey. And so Miss Honey, again, saw Matilda for who she was, understood her magical side, and really just wanted to, support her and be there for her, challenged her, made all these different lesson plans, did everything to meet her where she was. And I know that in the end, the reason why this book stood out, and I did reread it a lot, so this is one I hope I read again, and it's my Ella Enchanted. Miss Honey ends up petitioning and adopts Matilda. And so there's this great moment at the end, and we have talked about this, but I have always wanted to potentially adopt. I don't know though, because children are a lot, but I always had it in my mind that I would adopt, and I'm like, maybe there'll be a time where I'm teaching and that might present itself. So basically my first 2 books, story's great, but really it just wanted me to pursue being a teacher and helping young people. But my third one is good. My third one is for the literature. Okay.
Yeah, because the first 2, not good.
No, they're wonderful. They're wonderful, but that's not why they're my childhood favorite. Okay. It's not necessarily the story. It's what the story inspired me to do and be.
Okay. Yeah, the Goose Girl inspired me to speak to the wind.
You live in a windy place.
Yeah, I just wanted to be the characters in my... So, my third book is Wildwood Dancing by Juliette Marillier. And this is another one that I have frequently reread. It is another fairy tale retelling. Can you notice a theme of what I really liked as a child and I still really like? So a fairy tale retelling of the 12 dancing princesses. In this story, there's not a full 12 of them, but the premise is the same, where they, it's not every night, but every month they go into a fae kind of world, and dance with all of their fae friends. Not fae like Sarah J. Maas, it's not the same.
We just talked about her, so I'm like, Anna.
No, this is more based, it's based in Transylvania is where the story takes place. So there's a little bit of vampire influence here. There is some gothic kind of elements to the story. There's also a Frog Prince tie-in. I won't say too much about that because I don't want to give anything away. But this story, I related so much to the main character because she's very bookish. She's the one who's planning to take over her father's business. She's kind of keeping the rest of her sisters together. Her older sister is very whimsical and romantic and a little bit flighty. Her younger sisters are very obstinate, or very like focused on being pretty, and not that those are bad things, but she's kind of the level-headed one that feels like she has to regulate everybody else's emotions and keep them sane, while her father is he is gone basically from the home for a while, and she has a lot of weight on her shoulders and is a very logical, practical person in the face of many illogical instances, and I highly related to that as a child. Despite not wanting to be a logical person, I always have been. And it was very nice to see a girl who has no magical abilities in a whimsical fantasy world-esque that is very empowered by her relationships with her siblings, while also just being smart. And that's okay to be smart and not just be pretty. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So, mine is a tie between two, and I have to preface it with, this is a really long confession in the making to my sister Madison. So Madison, my sister, was obsessed with the Harry Potter series, and she was the older sibling. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, I couldn't be anything like her, because how dare I be like my older sister, you know?
Right.
But I did really like Harry Potter. And I also used to... I've actually never told her this. I used to steal her books, and I would read them in her room whenever she wasn't home, because they were, like, in her room. I know. Sorry, Madison. Because I wanted to borrow them. She wouldn't let me borrow her stuff. She still sometimes doesn't let me borrow your stuff.
This is a very sibling thing.
This is a very sibling thing. Because everyone liked Harry Potter, and they wanted to know why. And so I will say, I read the first 2 books from Madison's room, and I did love them. But then around that time, that was when the Percy Jackson series came out. So then everyone was talking about that, and so I was like, ooh, okay. Harry, you're really cool and awesome. Love you. But I don't want my sister to find out about this. So then I jumped ship to the Lightning Thief, and I dove headfirst into the Greek mythology. And I remember thinking it was super cool because I was Greek. And so I'm like, ooh, I have my own person. Madison, you can't steal this. This is totally a sibling thing. Yeah. However, both of those books did different things for me. So I think the community that was built around Harry Potter, if everyone was talking about it, not that I had that community with my sister, but everyone was talking about it, and it got me realizing that books really can connect people, and you could talk about it at school, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, have you read this? Da, 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 and watching the movies together. Yeah. And then The Lightning Thief, in addition to Harry Potter, just that fantasy world and really transporting yourself somewhere else and being really invested by the magic systems, and I'm a kid that with problems. Do I have magic? Am I secretly a demigod? Am I a wizard? And I just haven't gotten my calling. Let me know. And so I just think those books were really different, and they were different from the books I typically read. Mm-hmm. And so I still really like them. I talk about the Lightning Thief a lot. I still don't talk about Harry Potter a lot, and not just because of some of the issues with the author right now, but because there's still that younger sibling part of me that's like, I can't like this because my older sister likes this. Anyway, there's probably more confessions I could tell Madison later about her room. But I told you how to do one honorable mention, and it's really embarrassing. I also really love the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series.
Okay.
I loved it. It was fun. It wasn't like... I can't wait to read this. But when they turned those into movies, they casted Rowley so perfectly, and I went to go see it. They only had 3. I went to go see them. It was wonderful. That's all I'll say.
I didn't read any of those.
It's okay. It doesn't live up to the hype now. Everything else I'm sure would. This was just ridiculously middle school cheesy.
Yeah.
In fact, the first book is about the stinky cheese.
Yep.
Anyway, now that I've had my confessional, those are my 3 books.
Yeah, so tell us some of your favorite childhood books. Were any of ours some of your favorites? And do you think that influenced what you like as an adult?
Yeah.
Or what maybe you wanted to be as an adult? Maybe you wanting to be a teacher. And I just want to be somebody with magical abilities.
Or maybe not.
Yeah.
But you want to be surrounded by the magic.
Yeah, I do. I want to embrace myself.
So, on that note, thank you for watching, and go get immersed in a book, and
like and subscribe.
Bye.